Good afternoon and welcome to another inReach Field Experience webinar. Today we're going to be talking about inReach core features. To get started, a little introduction. My name is Chip Noble. I'm the product manager here at Garmin. And as you can see from this photo from the summit of Longs Peak in Colorado, I'm an avid outdoorsman. And today I'm going to be your trusted guide for all things planning, exploring, and sharing with your inReach device and your Explore ecosystem. So a lot for us to talk about today. A lot of slides. We're going to move relatively quickly through that. But again, any questions, save those for the end. Type them into the chat. So for today, a little agenda. We're going to cover core features, and that's going to talk about everything from the Explore website, where you go to activate your device, set up your account, do all of your planning with your message creation, that sort of thing. Contacts, we're going to talk about how you set up your MapShare page. We're going to cover your planning with waypoints and routes. We're going to look at the companion apps for our devices. That's the EARTHMATE app and the Explore app. We're also going to talk about how you use the system when you're out in the backcountry, how you send messages, how you start and stop tracking. We'll talk about things like requesting weather forecasts. And certainly because the inReach device is a safety product, we're going to talk about the SOS features for inReach. The note there at the bottom, we certainly want to remind everybody that because the inReach devices use the Iridium satellite network, that does require an active subscription. That's for things like tracking and sending messages, and particularly declaring an SOS. So you want to make sure you have that active satellite subscription. We also have a note about the differences. Different countries have different rules about satellite communication devices. Some actually prohibit their use. So as the adventurer, it's up to you to look into the regulations for the place you're going for your bucket list trip. Make sure that you comply with all of the laws in that area. So let's get started. The first thing we wanted to look at is the Explore website and the account and how you set things up. Now, this webinar is for existing subscribers mostly, so a lot of you have already been through this process. But the first thing you do with your account is you go in and you set up your account details. This is your personal contact information. It is the information that is used particularly for in case of an emergency. So you have your emergency contact information. Make sure that you put that into the Explore website and you keep it current when you go out on an adventure. If you have an emergency, the Garmin International Emergency Response Coordination Center, the IERCC, will reach out to your emergency contacts to see if they can learn anything more about the situation. Perhaps your contacts know where you went, that sort of thing. So keep that up to date. That all happens on the Explore website and the account. You also manage your device in this area you see here with these screens. We're looking at an inReach Explorer that has been added, Explorer Plus, added to this account. You can do things like manage who the device is assigned to in this area. You can also use it to update your subscription plan. With the inReach devices, you can move between the different plans at a monthly rate. You can move, say, from the safety plan up to the expedition plan because you have a big trip coming. Obviously, Expedition gives you access to unlimited messaging, unlimited tracking, all of those pieces. I encourage people, we've talked about this before, that recreation plan is a sweet spot for me because it has unlimited tracking included in the plan. But lots of choices, and this is where you would go to change plans for your device. After that, there's an additional piece in the website, and that's instructions for how to sync your device. Several different approaches, whether it's the inReach Sync app on the desktop, that's handy for the inReach Explorer Plus because you can use that to move maps onto your device, or the EARTHMATE or the Explorer app for syncing. That's going to move any changes that you make to your account, changes to your presets, your quick text, that sort of thing, which we'll look at in a little bit. But use the apps to sync as well. Very handy. It doesn't require a cable to connect your device to your computer, that sort of thing. So syncing as well. One of the things that we have built into this slide, this presentation that's exciting are these tips. We have tips for different areas where these are things that we know are very useful and valuable with the system. We want to make sure you're aware of it. So our first tip here is when you buy a new inReach device, you may be upgrading. Say you bought the inReach Explorer Plus and now you're interested in the 66i. You can transfer your data plan, your service from one device to the next. So some quick notes on how to do that. You go into your account, you go to plans and devices, and then you choose add inReach device. And you can see here that gives you the option to switch. So you can choose to switch the data plan from your previous device to a new device. And then you choose that from the list of available devices. And you see here the 66i, the Montana, the Alpha, a bunch of new and exciting products that you can choose from. So that's our first tip. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other controls in the Explorer website that you would use. One of them is around setting up your messages. So there are two types of predefined messages that you can send with the device. The first one is the preset message. Each inReach device gives you the ability to send up to 3 preset messages. These are special because you create them ahead of time. You choose who is going to receive the message and what you're going to type. And they're special because you can send an unlimited number of these preset messages. These are great for the safety plan user who wants to do an I'm checking in message. You can send those to, for myself, I send them to my mom, I send them to my wife. They get to hear that kind of everything's okay, I'm checking in message, send as many as you'd like. The other type of message is a quick text message. And these are messages that you set up ahead of time. You can have up to 20. You can write whatever it is you want to say. They do apply as a paid message when you send them, but they're convenient. You see right in the title, they're quick. You just pick, and we'll see in one of the tips. I use a quick text message pretty frequently. We'll look at that in a second. And obviously, we wanted to point out you can send custom messages. Those are great because most of the messages I send, I have something special about the moment that I want to send, and I prefer those over the pre-canned messages. We'll look at how to type a custom message when we get further on. That lets you choose the recipient as well as the message, and you can send those from the field. So how do we manage and create these presets in quick text? Very straightforward. In the Explorer website, there's a messages tab, and it brings up presets and quick text. To edit them, simply click on edit, and it allows you to change the text for the message. When you're finished, you hit done, and you'll have edited the preset. Quick text, same idea. You can edit an existing or quick text, or you can add to your list until you have up to 20 messages. Just choose edit, and then enter in the new text, and click save to be done. I mentioned that I have some quick text and presets that I like to use. You can create personalized messages and quick text to share with friends and family. I think most people use the simple, I'm starting my trip, send me a message. That's a great one to send at the trailhead. You can send that off. People will receive the message and be able to reply to you. And then you also have the one that I use the most when I'm out on a hike. I'll send a quick text reply of, I got your message, I'm busy right now, but I'll reply when I get a chance. That's nice because I like people to know that I received the message, even if I can't reply right away. A lot of times on these adventures, people may be nervous that you're doing something that might have some risk involved with it, and if you don't reply for a while, then they may get nervous. So I like to send that quick text message, letting them know that I'll get back to them. So presets and quick text messages. Another thing that we do on our Explore site is we set up our personal contacts. Now this is for the person who is going to be hiking with just the device in its standalone. So think about really any of the devices support standalone, but certainly if you have the GPS Map 66i, the Montana, the inReach Explorer Plus, those are really designed for standalone use, where with the Mini, you're probably connected to your phone. So if you're in that standalone scenario, then you're going to want to make sure you put the necessary contacts in here. These are the important people you're going to message while you're out. And that's pretty straightforward. You go to contacts, you click add, you put in your information here. I'll give you a tip that is not actually in the slide deck, but really only enter the primary contact for a person. Like for myself, I only put in my wife's cell phone number. I don't put in her email because I know she always replies to cell phone messages, and she's unlikely to check her email on a regular basis. And that reduces the number of contacts you have to scroll through when you're using the device and you want to select someone to send them a message. If you have someone who's only going to respond to one particular message address, don't waste the space for the others. So keep that in mind when you're setting up your contacts. And then, sorry, the note here that these contacts are different from your emergency contacts. Those two emergency contacts are special. You set them up on the website. That's more for the Garmin IERCC to use. These personal contacts are for you when you send your messages. Another area that you set up in the Explore website is that MapShare. MapShare is a very important tool because this is where your friends and family will go to monitor your progress while you're out on an adventure. You can send your MapShare link to them when you start your hike. When they receive it, they will have access to this map that will show your breadcrumb trail for everywhere that you've been. You can customize your MapShare by uploading things like the collection that has the waypoint for where you're going to start and finish and the route that you're going to follow. All of that can be visible to them on the MapShare page. And so to turn that on or set it up, you go into social on the Explore website. The first thing you need to do is choose to enable your MapShare page. You can do things like set up a custom URL. I like to use something that's easy for me to remember. share.garmin.com/Tuckerman-Climb. That's something I can tell somebody and remember it, and then they know how to go and find it. A lot of settings that you can control. I encourage everyone to go check these out. But at the highest level, you can do things like put in a password. You can specify who is able to send you a message from MapShare. There's even a feature that allows someone to locate you. Say you don't have your tracking turned on, they can select and see your location. Your device receives that message and automatically responds. You can do things like, and I had mentioned, you can specify a collection to make that visible so that it's there to help people understand what your adventure is all about. You can send your MapShare link to people. You can either do that from the computer during the planning phase, get everything put together. You can email someone your MapShare link, or you can send it from your device when you're at the trailhead. So a lot of power here in this MapShare feature, and I hope that everybody is using MapShare with their friends and family because that is the primary tool for them to kind of follow along as you're on your adventure. So we do have a tip for people for MapShare. Certainly for folks who do a lot of activities, you may find that you have a lot of track data, you have a lot of different events, and you want to help people focus in on what you're actually doing. So you can limit the MapShare page to only show your current hike. And the way to do that is to hide older tracking data. You go into the filter on the MapShare page in settings, and you choose this date field, and you can actually put in a date that will hide anything that was prior to that date. So we have a hike coming up on Wednesday. I could go to my MapShare page and say, don't show anything older than Tuesday. And that guarantees that when friends and family, associates, people go to see how the outing club is doing, they're going to look and only see the current data on our MapShare page. And then you can save changes from there. The other tip that we have for people is to point out, really try and drive home that MapShare is one of the primary ways that people can reach out and send you a message and interact with you. So certainly if you send a message to someone, they can reply to it. But imagine that you wanted to make your MapShare available to all of your friends that are on, say, following you on Facebook. You could take your MapShare link, you could post it to Facebook, then you don't have to initiate a conversation with every one of those friends. You could just allow them to see that you're on an adventure because you made a Facebook post, look at your MapShare page, and then they could choose that message link, and they can send you a message. And so the way to do that, I mentioned this already, but in the settings for MapShare, you can enable this option that allows map viewers to send you a message. Very handy feature there. And so then another thing that you can do with the Explore website, and this is more into the planning capabilities. So we've set up our device, we've set up our contacts and everything to make sure that we get out in the field, we can do the communication. Now in the planning side of things, you can create waypoints. Waypoints are handy because they mark a location with a name and an icon that help you remember. And then you can use those for navigation. So you see here a waypoint for the Mount Madison summit for a hike that we've done in the past. To create that waypoint on the map page, you click the Add Waypoint button. You tap on the map at the location, you enter waypoint detail, you click the green checkbox. Pretty straightforward, but you can do that for lots of different places and build up a nice library of waypoints for your adventures. Routes are a very similar process. They're also in the toolbar there. You see the two waypoints for the car and Mount Madison. I've connected those by drawing in a route. And the way we do that is we select from the map tab the route tool, and we just tap out a direct route there along the trail. Each tap allows you to extend the route, and when you get to the end, you just tap on the last point a second time, and it brings up a dialog for you to name the route and save it. Very straightforward. Once you've created your waypoints and your routes, one of the things we encourage people to do is actually create a collection. These collections are very handy because they organize your data. You can put the waypoints and the route for a hike into one collection and name it, in this case, the Mount Madison hike. And to do that, you go into the collections area, which is over on the left side of the map page. You click the plus, that starts to create a collection. You give it a name. You can check off each of the waypoints and the routes that you want to be part of the collection, save it, and you can even specify which of your inReach devices, your Garmin devices, would have this collection synced to it. So collections are good for organization. We also use them, can use them for syncing to specify that syncs to your device. We have a tip for you. One of the things that I really enjoy is the ability to do all of this planning. And then if I center my map over the waypoints and the routes that I just created, then I can click this Select All on Map button. And you see here, and what that does is it just automatically checks off everything that's on the map and says this is your collection. Very handy, saves things nicely. That's a good thing. If people haven't familiarized themselves with collections and they have a lot of data, you can create collections very quickly by just panning to the area where you've done an adventure in the past, center it nicely, create the new collection, hit the save, select all on map, automatically create a collection. And some more details. One of the new features that we have released since the last time we did our core features presentation was the collections managers. It's now available on your handheld device. It is available on the GPS Map 60 series devices as well as the Montana series devices. If you go to the main menu, you'll see Collections Manager. After you create your collections and you sync with the device, View Collections Manager, see this list, and you see there Mount Madison in the middle. One of the things you can do is choose Menu and enable all, disable all. A little flow that's very handy is to disable all of your collections and then only turn on the one that you need for the trip that you're going on. And what it does is it cleans up your waypoint list and your route list. So instead of having hundreds of waypoints, you now only have the 3 that are relevant to the hike that you're going on. Same thing for your route. Makes it a lot easier to see your data, find it, use it for routing, use it for just making sure everything's all set up correctly. So excited to bring that tip to everybody. And hopefully some of you have already seen collections. The Collections Manager's been out for a little bit. From here, we'll look at the companion apps that are available for use with our inReach devices. These apps are great because they allow you to use your phone. We all know our phones have really high resolution display for great topographic maps, aerial imagery, that sort of thing. It also has a touch screen, so when I want to send text messages, I can type very quickly with my touch screen in the EARTHMATE app or the Explorer app. Some other features that you can use here: starting, stopping, tracking, all the navigation capabilities that I just talked about, that can be done through these apps. The address book from the phone is available to you. So we talked about adding contacts into the Explorer ecosystem. You don't actually have to do that if you're going to be paired to your phone. You can just access the address book on your phone. Weather reports, you can trigger an SOS. A lot of people will ask, and we'll see the question, I'll answer it right now. What is the difference between the Explorer app and the EARTHMATE app? The EARTHMATE app, it comes from the DeLorme days before Garmin acquired DeLorme, and that works with our legacy inReach devices, the older inReach for smartphone devices. It also works with the first inReach devices that were created with Garmin, the inReach SE Plus, Explorer Plus, and the Mini. At a point, we re-released the companion app as the Explorer app, and that is the app that works with the GPS Map 66i, the 86, which is a marine device, the Montana, the Alpha 200, that just recently came out. So think of it that way. Otherwise, they really do the same thing. It's mapping, it's where you type your message, it's where you see your user data. Collections is a feature that's only available in the Explorer app. If you're really excited about collections, that may be a motivation to upgrade your inReach old legacy device into one of the GPS Map 66i models. But some basics on the apps there. A tip that we wanted to share with people, this is about our cartography. Everyone is familiar with the great topographic maps that you can see in Explorer and EARTHMATE. There's also the great aerial imagery that you can see, and with a hybrid map, you can go into Maps and choose the hybrid option, and what that does is it uses the aerial imagery as the land cover, and it overlays the points and the lines and the contour lines and the hydro lines on top of that aerial image, and it creates a beautiful map with that background imagery and all of the important detail for you to see the terrain. And you can see here on this Mount Rainier climb, it really is quite a difference between the flat white glacier view before hybrid and then seeing the contours, so you can see where the steepness is on this climb. So check out hybrid view. We're pretty excited about that. From there, I want to talk a little bit about GPX files. This is an important feature for folks. Anybody who researches their trip ahead of time, maybe you're using a third-party trail website or a cycling community website, and you find data that someone has gathered, they probably will make that available in a GPX file format. It's pretty standard. You can import that using the Explorer app, and pretty straightforward. Click on the plus symbol on the map, choose Import GPX, select it from one of the files that you have on your phone. You can get it from an email, you can get it from a text message, you could download it as a file onto your phone. After you successfully import it, and you see here this example from California, you get this really rich data that someone put a lot of time into creating. You can just bring that into your system, and you see here these are summits and their rest stops and water spots, that sort of thing. The nice thing about this is you can use this to share data with other people. So we have the Tuckerman hike coming up. Later on, I'm going to create the route and the waypoints for that hike, and I'm going to export the GPX file. I'm going to send it to my friends here in the building that are going to do the outing club hike. They'll receive that GPX and they'll be able to import it into their own Explorer app, and it will look on their app exactly the way that I created it in my app, with the same line color, the same symbol selection and everything, and they'll be ready for the hike that I planned for them. So importing and exporting GPX files is an important thing for everyone to be familiar with. From there, we talk about how to pair and sync your app with your device. That's obviously an important step. You want to make sure that you're connected by Bluetooth. The instructions for this, we have a lot of instructions on our support site if you have any trouble with it. But the important piece is that make sure that you have done that pairing and that you sync, because that moves the information that we did in that first step with our account creation, the presets, the quick text, all of the details we provided, that has to sync down into the app from the website and then from the app onto the device. So syncing there. A note here, it does occur automatically when you turn on your device and you have your app open. The app will look for your device and automatically sync any new information down to the device or from the device into the app and up to the website. Really exciting that we back up all of your data into the cloud so you have access to it anywhere. If something happens to your, to your device or your app, it's stored in the cloud. And then just some details for how to see whether your device is connected or not from the EARTHMATE app and the Explorer app. Really, it's you go into the menu and you look to see if your device is connected. That's a good check to make sure that syncing is working. Is it connected? Then yes, you should expect syncing to work. A new feature that we have added for people, there really are a couple of different types of users. There's folks who have a small amount of data and they want it all to be available to them when they're out on an adventure. You can choose the sync settings and actually select sync everything. That will take all of the waypoints and routes that you've created, your collections, and it will sync them down to your device. Again, great if you don't have a lot of data. Some folks like myself, years of data accumulated over time, lots and lots of collections. I will choose the sync selection option, and I'll actually pick only a few of the collections and put those onto my device. So you see here I have the Mount Madison hike and the Mount Washington hike selected. That does some things like streamlines my lists on my device. So some controls there certainly would also help if I hit the point where perhaps I don't have enough storage space on my my Garmin wearable or that sort of thing. So there's some tips there on syncing, syncing everything or just syncing your selection. Excuse me. Sending a message. We wanted to. So now we've gone from setting everything up and planning, and now we're looking at the adventure. We're on the adventure. We're looking at sending preset messages. And to send a preset, these are the steps you see in the screens. I'm not going to talk through all of it, but the idea here is that you go into presets, you choose the preset you want to send, and you choose send. It is that straightforward. And the note here, I mentioned how preset messages are free to send. When your friend or family member receives that message and they reply to it, then that is actually charged to your message allocation for the month. So if you are on that safety plan and you want to really preserve those 10 messages, you may tell your friends and family that they'll receive a preset for an update, but not to reply unless they really need to get in touch with you. So some details about sending presets. A tip here, this is a fun tip. I actually started using this with friends. The last time was a fly fishing trip. And if you are out and you have a bunch of people that are using inReach devices, you can actually send a preset from your inReach device to someone else's inReach device. They will receive the message with your location, and it's kind of an affordable version of team tracking. So all you have to do is create the preset message that uses their inReach address, and then you have to encourage your friend to create their own preset message that uses your inReach address, and then you can very quickly send preset 1, which is the I'm checking in, and it shows people locations. And so we see a few screenshots here. Here's my location, reply with preset 1. I had to make sure that we knew how to do it. But yeah, it's kind of an affordable version of team tracking. And then where to find your inReach address. If you have a Mini, a 66, a Montana, they are in the contacts list, the Alpha, that sort of thing. If you have one of the older devices, the SE or Explorer, SE Explorer Plus, it's in the About This Device page. So make sure you know what your inReach address is, because it can be used for device-to-device messaging. How to send a quick text message. We talked about presets. We'll look at quick text, very straightforward. From the messages page, you can either choose to send a new message or reply. Again, quick text, probably replying to somebody. You can select the contact, and then you choose quick text, and you get to pick from the list of up to 20 quick text messages. I don't believe we referenced this in the SOS section, but there's actually a set of SOS quick text responses that we have worked with the Garmin IERCC to create, and those are the most common responses that they receive during an SOS situation. So those are also available, and then you hit send for that. Yeah, and then a note that sending and receiving quick text messages both count against your message allocation. So custom messages are an important message. This is one I mentioned. These are great because I can actually put in detail. What is it that I'm actually experiencing while I'm out on the trail? I prefer custom messages because I can be descriptive and let someone experience what I'm experiencing through my message. Go into messages, select new message. You specify the contact that you want to receive it, and then you type your message, and then hit send. Very straightforward. The screenshots show that, and they count against your totals. This is where I really wanted to spend a few seconds talking about this tip. Everybody knows it can be a little bit tedious to use a buttoned interface. We're all so used to touchscreens. The Montana is a great option if you must have the touchscreen. But we've built these keyboard shortcuts so that you can enter your text faster. You can see they vary a little bit from the Explorer Plus to the Mini down to the 66i, but in general, there is a suggested word based on what you've typed, and then, predictive word. We look at the letters you've typed and we predict what you're trying to spell. So we give you the ability to quickly select that. There's different shortcuts for each of these. You see the hints are in the header bar for the SE Plus. The Mini, in order to access that suggested word, you press and hold the enter button to select it. And then on the Montana 66 Series Alpha, the keyboard shortcuts are here. And you can find this online as well. But the point is, we will predict the word, and you can pick that. And then after that, we'll actually suggest what the next word might be based on careful analysis of lots of messages and what people usually are sending from the backcountry. It allows us to help people enter their messages faster. So look a little deeper into our support site if you're interested in these keyboard shortcuts. I highly recommend them. If you're using the button interface, it allows you to type your messages faster. From here, we'll look at tracking. Tracking is what you enable to allow people to see your breadcrumb trail on the MapShare page. This is very important for, if you want someone to follow along. And you do that by starting and stopping tracking. This is the 3 devices where we show how to do that. You can choose start tracking and stop tracking. Very straightforward. The tip that we wanted to share, I know we've had some folks, myself included, who may forget to start tracking when you get to the trailhead. You're excited to get underway, you turn on your device, forget to start tracking, you are a couple of miles up the trail, and you realize that you forgot, and so on your MapShare, you know there's this gap for what you did. There's an option in settings tracking, which is referred to as auto track, and if you turn that on, that means that when your device powers on, it will automatically start tracking, which is great. Now combine that with a powered mount. Say you have a truck or a boat or an airplane. We talk to a lot of pilots that use this. When you engage the ignition on your vehicle, the mount receives power, the device turns on, and it automatically starts tracking. You don't have to do anything with the device. That's a really handy approach. And then make sure that you have at least a recreation plan for that, so that you're not paying per track point. You want to take advantage of the unlimited tracking at that recreation level. want to talk a little bit about navigation while you're out on your adventure, and this allows you to choose the route that you just created and choose start navigating. And again, I'll move through this a little bit quicker to get to the tips. You just select navigate and go. One of the new features that I wanted to talk about is this ability to start navigating from the Explore app and have that navigate message. To start, you can start navigating on one of your connected devices. So here's the Mount Madison hike we looked at. I can go into the details for either a waypoint or a route, and I can choose navigate. And when I make that selection, it's going to bring up a list of all of my connected Garmin devices. This is a great new feature because it used to be that I would stand at the trailhead while people impatiently waited for me, and I would have to start navigating on my inReach device, and then I would have to start navigating on my watch, and then I would start navigating in my app. And now I can use the Explorer app to send a start navigate command to all of my connected devices, and then everything just starts working the way you would expect. I can see my elevation profile on my Phoenix watch. I can see my topographic map on my 66i. If I want to pull my phone out of my pocket, I see it all update there as well. So that start navigating capability from the app down to the devices, super exciting. It has been out for a bit. Hopefully people are seeing it. You see the screenshot from the GPS Map 66i. That has the route active. It's sending information back to my app, and you see my speed and my distance. I wasn't actually at Mount Madison last night, so it's 100 miles away. But start navigating in the app. Exciting new feature. Some other things you can do with the system, you can view elevation profiles. We want to show this. This allows me to view the route or track on the details page, and then I can choose a profile graph. And this is really powerful because it's a lot easier to get a feeling for the climb that's in front of you if you're seeing a profiled graph rather than just trying to interpret the topographic data with the shaded relief and contour lines. Same thing on the GPS Map 66i, and the Montana. You get a profile view, an elevation plot for it, and you can do that as a menu option off of the route planner tool. So a cool feature there for elevation profile. This is how to navigate to a waypoint. You choose from the waypoint list. In the menu, you choose it, choose that waypoint, and you navigate to it. Straightforward. Different. The Explorer Plus and the Mini will give you a straight line to it. The 66i has the capability to calculate routes to those locations using the topographic map. So some different options there, but navigating to a waypoint. Now I want to take some time to talk about the weather forecast. We've covered these in the past, but remember that there are 3 types of weather forecasts. Basic land forecasts, which give you relevant information like temperature and precipitation, that sort of thing for land. A premium forecast takes that forecast and extends it to a greater duration of time. And then a marine forecast adds in marine-related attributes. So you get things like wave heights and wave period and wind speed and direction and things that are important for people on the water. A note about marine forecasts, they really are intended for offshore more than nearshore travel. You can't request a marine forecast within 5 miles or it just comes back and wants to tell you a land forecast. When you request a forecast, the process is simple. You go to the weather menu and you choose either a forecast for your current location or for like a waypoint, something like that. That allows you to check the forecast for the summit or for Tucumán Ravine in Mount Washington while you're still in Maine. And you can get that forecast. You can update it as you approach, or you can get your forecast for your current location. Choose the type, basic, premium, marine, and select Get Forecast. Going to move into the SOS part of the presentation here. The benefits, the importance of SOS for our inReach devices. Obviously, the the inReach device has that connection to the Garmin International Emergency Response Coordination Center. That is a 24/7 global monitoring center, and they're always there anytime that you need help. If you need to declare an emergency, you hit the SOS button on the side of the device. It uses the Iridium satellite network with that global coverage. It sends the message to them. They receive the message, and because the system has that two-way communication, they can reply to you. That peace of mind, the comfort that you receive, or that you get from receiving a message from somebody. It's a simple question of, we know that you're having an emergency. Is it a medical emergency, or is it an equipment failure, something like that, that allows you to reply to them and say, this is exactly what I'm experiencing, please help. They can tell you how long it's going to take for help to arrive. They will track your location during the emergency. And then as an added benefit, because you have that two-way capability, if you have resolved the situation and you no longer need assistance, you can actually cancel the SOS. And that's great for search and rescue because they don't need to continue to your location if you've already resolved the situation and you've moved on. So some basics on how to trigger an SOS. Here are the screens that show the process. Triggering an SOS is, again, very straightforward. You notice each of our inReach devices has a physical SOS door on the side. You open the door, you mash the SOS button, you hold it until you hear the beeps start, and then there's a 20-second countdown timer. But if something happens, say you've had an injury and you aren't able to interact with the device from there, that's all you need to do to declare your emergency. After the 20 seconds, if you don't cancel it, then you're in the SOS emergency mode. We encourage people to interact with the Garmin IERCC, reply to their message, answer any questions they ask. It just helps them better service your emergency with search and rescue. But an important note is if for some reason you can't respond to them, they certainly still continue with the rescue. It's just a data point for them that you're able to respond or you're not. And then, as I mentioned, if you have resolved the situation, go ahead and cancel your SOS so that they know to tell search and rescue to stand down. A tip for us, one of the features that we added a little bit ago was the ability for the Garmin IERCC to send a message to you with the contact information from search and rescue. We were finding that they were sending these phone numbers and saying, hey, can you have the person contact, in this case, John at this number. They can send that now. When you receive it, you will be able to start a conversation directly with search and rescue, and that saves some time and makes for better communication. So this is our last tip before we get to our questions, and it's the most important tip. Now I'll spend a few seconds here talking about it. Please practice before you go on your trip. Practicing is important because it familiarizes yourself with all of the things that we just covered in this webinar. You get to make sure that your account is set up correctly. You make sure that you have your contacts put into the device correctly, your presets, your quick text, all of those things. And I talk to people about a homework assignment. Your homework assignment is to take the dog for a walk around the neighborhood and bring your inReach device with you. And certainly you have cell phone coverage at home, but pretend that you're in the backcountry on your bucket list adventure. Send your message that you're starting your trip to your friends, to your family. Say, hey, I just got this new system. I'm going to be using it in a few weeks on this big trip. I want you to reply to me. When they reply, you receive that message. And that's really important because then you can see what it is to send a message and receive. You've experienced the round trip process. You can send your MapShare link. You can create waypoints. There's all kinds of things you can do, but you're practicing in a safe environment. You're not waiting until you're potentially in a more adventurous situation where you may not have time to do those things. You might be outside of cell phone coverage, and we don't want you to discover that you haven't fully learned about the system until you're in the field. So some testing tips for people. Make sure to sync your inReach device after you set everything up. We talked about that. That puts those presets and quick texts and contacts on the device. There are test messages on the device. Should your friends and family not be available, maybe you waited until late the night before the hike, which I may or may not have done in the past. You can use the test message. You send the test. It goes up just to the satellite, and it gets echoed back down to you. But it's really powerful because it makes sure that your subscription, your inReach subscription, is working and your device is ready for the trip. You can use those test messages. You have 5 of them a month. And then the last note here is, after you finish that homework assignment and you take the dog for a walk, you can go home, you can look at your Explore app, you can look at your Explore website, you can see the breadcrumb trail, understand what people experience on your MapShare page and how all of that data comes together. So definitely practice before you go on your trip. That was my last slide. We finished all of our webinars with some additional resources. We talked about the Explorer website, explorer.garmin.com. Support site, that's great. Our team has worked really hard, all the teams in Garmin, for help documents, our manuals, product videos, webinars like the one we just went through. All of those are recorded and available on the support site. And my favorite part of our system is the Garmin blog. That is where you can go to read wonderful reports about inReach users just like yourselves, the adventures you've been on. And we even are fortunate enough to have some folks who have experienced SOS emergencies, and they'll share their stories with us as well. So you can see that on garmin.com/blog.